It's no secret that the Winter Maiden powers are soon going to transfer to a new host, as the current Winter Maiden, Freya, is an elderly woman who's sickly and close to dying. And currently, Winter Schnee is set to be the next in line to get the Winter Maiden powers, as set up by Ironwood, the powers that be. But Winter's not the only one who aspires to be the next Winter Maiden. There's also the factor of Cinder, who's actively targeting the Maiden, as well as Neapolitan, who's on Cinder's side and is a bit of a wild card in this mix, who could have some influence. I already made a separate video on the likely candidates of who would be next in line to inherit the Winter Maiden powers. Now, I will say that I didn't mention Robin Hill in that video, as a lot of people seem to like the idea of her inheriting the powers. I'm all for that, it's just I don't really see Robin ever coming in contact with the Winter Maiden, as Robin's focus is pretty much entirely in Mantle, and the Winter Maiden is safe and secure up in Atlas. But that could easily change. However, though, what I want to discuss in this video is something that I neglected to mention in my other video, and that is the absolute wild card that is Neo's semblance. Overactive imagination, the ability to create real illusions. Currently, the only requirement for a Maiden to transfer her powers to a specific target is to think of a young female upon dying. And that's it. All she has to do is, in the moment of death, think of a specific young female and the powers should transfer to that person. Plenty of ways that you could fulfill that requirement. One, just be a person who's been close to the current Maiden at the time. In the case of Freya, maybe it's a grandchild or someone that she would think of in her final moments, reflecting on her life or something like that. Or maybe in the case of Winter, you know, being the only person that Freya has been allowed to see for well over a year, most likely. It's been that long since the fall of Beacon Academy, so yeah, Freya has been in seclusion, only allowed to see Winter, and very likely that being the only person she's thinking of, as the only human contact she has. Or in the case that Cinder's probably planning on doing. You know, torment and torture Freya, you know, for however long before dying, so that Freya can think of nothing else but her assailant, and then when Cinder finally does, you know, kill her, she's likely to only think of Cinder in the moment of dying, and then Cinder would get the powers. But then there's Neo. You know, I always thought she could just be in the room, stalking Cinder, and Freya would see Neo in the moment of death, or something else could happen, and Neo might inherit the powers. I would personally love for Neo to get the powers, but her semblance throws a huge wrench into that, because she could be masking herself as someone else. And even if Freya does see her in the moment of death, it's very unlikely that the powers would then transfer to Neo, because I'm guessing that when the rules are stated as having the image of a young woman in mind, that doesn't factor in having illusions. So if, for example, Neo creates a perfect copy of RWBY, and does that to distract Cinder or whatever, maybe trying to save the Maiden, and Freya then ends up dying, giving into her illness at that moment, but thinking of RWBY. Well, RWBY could inherit the powers. Or frankly, any young female that Neo decides to imitate or create an illusion of at that moment. So, yeah, there's a few more possibilities as to who could inherit the powers. Now, this isn't very likely. I still stand by the video that I made that, you know, those characters are the likelier ones to inherit the powers. But one thing Neo could do is even mask herself as Emerald. And then somehow Emerald ends up getting the powers. You know, again, to distract Cinder, trying to break ties with her or stab her in the back, and just things like that, which could happen. You know, there's a lot of possibilities. But this also doesn't just apply to the Winter Maiden. There's still the Summer Maiden that's out there, and Raven, the Spring Maiden, though I don't really know how much interaction illusions will have on Raven, because she might be able to see through them, she's very skilled, etc. But, you know, this could apply to the Summer Maiden when we actually end up meeting her. If Neapolitan's in the mix, her real illusions could be a factor, but also Emerald. Emerald can create hallucinations. That's her semblance. Hallucinations would also work in a very real way to influence what someone is thinking about the moment before dying. We already saw when Emerald lost control in Volume 5, and she created that kind of warped version of Salem that everyone could see. She could literally infiltrate the mind of the Maiden currently, unless the magic can somehow block that, or the person's semblance can somehow block that. There's other factors that could be in there, but Emerald could mess with that person's mind and make them think of nothing but that person, not be able to get the image of a person out of their mind. Emerald could really influence a Maiden's power transfer, especially if she still is on Cinder's side, even though, you know, Cinder really doesn't care that much about her. But let's say that Cinder goes off to target Raven. Emerald, you know, has a couple other people with her, maybe Hazel or someone else that is working alongside her, so that they can go target the Summer Maiden, with the intention of having the Maiden powers transfer to Cinder. Well, while everyone else is attacking the Summer Maiden, Emerald could just be using her semblance to make the Summer Maiden think of nothing but Cinder, make it seem like Cinder's the one attacking her, so that upon dying, even if Cinder is halfway across the world in a completely different kingdom, the powers could still transfer to her, because there's likely no distance limitation on the powers being transferred. So yeah, the possibility of illusion-type semblances to influence the power transfer of Maidens is honestly pretty astounding. I don't know how much it would actually play into the plotline of RWBY. As I said, with Neo's semblance and the current Winter Maiden, I don't really know how much that's going to play in, but they really could throw an absolute, like, out-of-left-field plot twist with Neo using her semblance to mask herself as someone else to sneak into the facility that the Winter Maiden is in, for example. Likely she would have to mask herself as Winter, or potentially even Weiss, because the workers at the facility, since Winter brought Weiss through the facility, they wouldn't be surprised to see Weiss there. She's associated with the military, currently a fully licensed huntsman on Ironwood's kind of inner council currently. It wouldn't be a surprise to see Weiss there. Someone who Neo has come into personal contact with. Don't really know how much contact Neo has had with Winter, but yeah. So if Neo, dressed up as Weiss, or created an illusion of Weiss, went there and either tried to, you know, betray Cinder by rescuing the Winter Maiden, or killed the Winter Maiden in Cinder's place, or what have you, some way where the Winter Maiden, upon dying, was thinking of Weiss, even though Weiss wasn't even there, Weiss could just be fighting in Mantle currently, and then all of a sudden have the Winter Maiden powers. Like, things like this could actually happen. That's what is really interesting about these illusion-type semblances. Currently, the only two semblances are, you know, Neo's overactive imagination and Emerald's hallucinations, but they could have major impacts on that, considering they are two people who know about the Maidens. Neo is allied with Cinder currently, as is Emerald, who is targeting the Winter Maiden and all of the other Maidens. Cinder probably has the overall goal of attaining all the Maiden powers. Who knows if she's actually going to get all of the Maiden powers, but yeah, it is a possibility. Plus, there's also the possibility of other illusion-type semblances being introduced into the RWBY series. Maybe some on the actual, you know, main characters, protagonists, I should say, side. That maybe Team RWBY or someone, when they get to Vacuo, they will meet someone who can create mirages with their semblance. I mean, we're going to be headed to the desert in Vacuo, so having a semblance that could create mirages would make sense and would follow a similar line when it comes to Maiden power transfer. So, yeah, this is an interesting way that things could turn out if illusions, hallucinations, mirages, any other form of getting a Maiden to think of a specific person upon dying could very much influence the way that the powers transfer. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments below as to how you think illusions might play into the semblance or the Maiden power transfer at some point in the RWBY series. Not necessarily with the Winter Maiden. Currently, this is the, you know, Maiden that we're going to see the powers transfer probably this volume, so that might have an influence now. It might not. Later in the series, it might have a greater influence. Either Neo or Emerald or some other semblance could be an influence on the Maiden powers transfer. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope it got you thinking a little bit about the possibilities of different semblances and things like that. So make sure to subscribe if you did enjoy the video. And you know, follow me on Twitter at Phoenix Knight 7. Tweet me anything that you'd like about anime, the RWBY series, anything you think I might enjoy, and I'll see you guys in the next video.